Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have an entertaining game to share with you from the 2024 FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Championships. This was a round 12 rapid game, 15 minutes, 10-second increment. Penultimate round, day 3 of 3, held on December 28th. On the white end are Praggnanandhaa playing against Volodar Murzin. This win by Murzin in this round 12 essentially won him the Rapid World Chess Championship title, paved the way for him to secure a comfortable final round draw. At the end of the event, after the 13 rounds, he was the sole leader with 10 points. The opening we have here, Italian game, white preparing this central push. We have the capture, and now e5. e5 met with d5. d5 denotes the Greco gambit. Now, that's a bit of an odd name for it. Not sure why gambit is being used. There is no gambit here. After these next few moves, just having a look, material is balanced. Kind of weird. All right, at the end of the day, very topical line here. Neither side wasting any time. We are 10 moves in, all minor pieces developed. White castles, pair of knights are off, and things now heat up in the center after f6. A fight, these next few moves over this e5 square. Praggnanandhaa, having a look here at the clocks, has yet to blink. Has more time than he started with. His move here, queen to d2. Follow-up is bishop to e4. In a way, trying to take advantage of this queen d2 move. There's no longer a piece there securing the knight on f3. If black instead captures on e5, here's how white can respond. First, swiping the knight, breaking up the queen side, and then recapturing with this knight on e5, a piece that is not easily challenged. This guy is somewhat sectioned off to the queen side. Black not so quick to simply capture on this square. It is instead bishop to e4, follow up, bishop takes knight, now the capture on f6, and from here it is bishop captures knight. If black simply recaptures on f6, you take with the queen, this knight takes up this strong post. If you take with the pawn, you'd like to avoid having split pawns if you can, and taking with the rook is just asking for trouble. So the idea here by black was to fracture the white king position. Bishop takes knight, in-betweener flicked in, no time to rescue the bishop. Problem here with the rook. No king takes pawn. A more convenient recapture will be with the rook. Putting the king on a dark square will be asking for trouble. Only now do we see pawn captures bishop, and from here, queen to f6. So just doing a body count here. White is currently up 2 pawns, but this guy here will almost certainly be rounded up shortly. The extra pawn, therefore, that white has, kind of look to these points here, not the healthiest pawn around. Black here aiming to recapture, or I should say capture, on f3 and be a giant pest there with the queen. White's not going to allow that. It is f4 in this position. Now, something that sticks out about this one, this position here, these guys. This guy is technically the good bishop, but it's not really a very active good bishop. I mean, how do you break out of this queen side? This guy is the bad bishop, and it is a really bad bishop. Currently has now no moves. Okay, these guys are a non-factor at the moment. The battle from here will be where's going to be a safe square for the kings, and what exactly are the major pieces going to do. From here, the queen slithers in along the light squares. King h1. Follow up is rook takes pawn. Queen e4 goes nowhere. Just gets hit back, and then there's more of a struggle trying to regain the pawn. And black will end up losing control over the g file if you expend a tempo here with queen e4. It is rook takes g7 at this stage. Queen e2 played here. If white tries to contest the g file here, queen e4 would then be excellent. f3, you could take the pawn and you're walking into a pin. Clearly not the way to play as white. So it is queen e2, some coverage over the light squares. Queen e4 later, there's now f3, a queen there supporting it. At this point, we have the start of a king walk. King f7. Don't try this at home, king walk, I should note. It is not objectively sound throughout, but it is 100% entertaining. From here, white plays queen f3, covers the diagonal, doesn't allow queen e4 to hit with check. Now, what white could do is immediately challenge this rook. Can immediately play rook to g1. Now, how would this look? From here, rook g8 is one of the top moves. If black tries queen e4 here, black will end up losing control over the g file. Because f3 would be there, here we go. We exchange rooks. The king does not want to be on the open file, but that's just how it is now. This is considered a winning position, ready to double up and enter somehow. Not a good variation to insert the check if you're just going to get punched back. So, if this rook g1 move was played in the game, it is queen f3. But if rook g1 and rook here is played, here's a nice move white could consider now. A pivot along the g file. White has an option here to pivot on g3 or even g5. If the rook goes to g3 and the rook is captured, white is prepared to take towards the center. And white could play in this way without fear of queen h3 check. This looks scary, but there's no good follow-up here for black. It may seem like rushing down with this h-pawn might be something if I'm to map out these moves just a little bit. After a move like h4, black is in trouble. There'd be queen h5, and there's no time to even take. You're in a pin. Big problems for black. My point, white could, in this position right here, instead of playing queen f3, you could contest the g file with an eye on this pivot on g3. It's queen f3 in this one. Black doubles on the g file. And from here we have rook a to e1. Now, it's a delicate situation here for white in the following way. White is still up this pawn, still trying to show that it is something. And the best way to show that it is something is to maintain a rook or two on board. If you trade too much here as white, the position is not going to go anywhere. It's going to be much more difficult to realize this extra pawn advantage. Rook a e1 in this position. Let me demonstrate. If too much is exchanged, so let's say white contests the file now. We're going to swap off all of the rooks. And now black is going to have some fun along this diagonal, giving a bunch of checks. So it may look something like this. Okay, we may even get into a situation where white wants to exchange queens. Watch a position like this. Okay, I'm bringing it to a super simplified state, a bishop-specific ending. And I just want to show you how quickly things can turn in black's favor. Let's just say a quick train of thought here by white is, hey, there's an isolated pawn. Let me go after it and then run with my passed h-pawn. You play a move like king h4 here, black is instantly winning. This bishop that wasn't doing a whole lot for the whole game will now do something. It could go to a5, and how are you defending this pawn? Bishop d2, now you're tactically vulnerable. There's a winning path for black in c5 ready to take, and you cannot take back. And if you take, there's d4. This is winning now for black. My main point, white must be careful not to exchange too much, not to exchange all major pieces. Now, if you exchange all major pieces, in short, if all major pieces are exchanged and there's a black king on f5, how are you going to dislodge that king on f5? It's too strong a post. So, Prag's try in this one, he's not exchanging rooks here. It's rook a to e1. After queen g4, the queens must now be exchanged. White does not have a choice here. If white tries queen g3 here, similar to that rook lift I demonstrated earlier, that's going to hurt. Your queen would be trapped now. So white must exchange queens now. And from here, rook c1. Yet again, if you go in for rook g1, we're exchanging all rooks. The king goes to f5. And how do you break that down? You pretty much don't. The try here is next with c4. King f6 is played here. A bit of a weird move. The king is continuing to walk now in this endgame without the queens on. You can feel more comfortable advancing the king. I'm not quite sure why the king isn't traveling on light. You are a little bit closer to the queen side. All right, for whatever the reason, king f6 is played here. Follow-up is c4. Now, in the computer's eyes, it says best is to take, and after the recapture, be okay giving up this pawn. I should note, if the king is on e6 in this position and c4 is played, you take, and after the rook recaptures, the king is able to assume a strong post there on d5 and hang on to, or at least put up a bigger fight here over the c6 pawn. But he's a little bit too far away, in this case, to meet the c4 advance. Best try in this position is, in fact, to take. And after this capture, computer's pointing out, step up with the king, and next, challenge the rook. It's true, this king position is very active. It does count for something. Maybe it is worth at least a pawn. All right, we do not have this decision, though, in response to c4. It is king to f5. And now the top move here by white, the winning way, is to play with c5. This bishop only has one square, and from here, it's short on squares. It's unprotected, it's vulnerable. White looks to pinpoint it. Rook b1. What does white have up his sleeve? Entry on the 7th rank? That's almost always where you look to go. But hang on. Black's move here, rook g2. Pragg is not going in for the 7th rank here. He is already aware of this possibility. King planted on f3 will set up mating ideas as well as a perpetual check idea. His move is rook b3, an eye on f3 to question the king if he goes there, and there's also rook a3. Let me demonstrate the mating idea as well as the perpetual check idea in case white goes straight in for rook b7, and rook takes pawn, and even rook takes bishop. This is a drawn position with rook 8 to g4. There's two serious threats. The main one is checkmate. If this rook moves, let's say, to an open b file, you're going to get mated. This rook takes the h-pawn next. Ball game. White's way out of the mate. This is one way. Rook a3. Now if you try this, the bishop moves. There's a discovered check, and the king is moved away from the rook. King takes rook to follow. But in this position, black would have a save in rook captures pawn. You can give up a rook and land this fancy perpetual check on the g4, h4 squares. So he is attentive, Pragg is attentive to this idea of the black king assuming this super strong post on f3. He pivots on b3 here. Follow up, king e4, rook's doubled, and king f3. He's okay, apparently, with this discovered check. He doesn't land it in this game. He pushes the pawn, says, who's going to stop it now? The king's out of position. It's going to be up to one of the rooks to stop the passer. This is a way forward for white to, in fact, land the discovered check, and after king takes pawn, not to take the bishop because you'd be getting mated in 2 with rook g1. The idea here would be to return to e3, and only in this position, after there's no longer an f-pawn around, to now advance. In what way is this different without the f-pawn? Well, if this king tries to advance in this case, we're going to be getting a pair of rooks off, and that will ease white's troubles here. Won't have to worry about mates or perpetual checks. Pragg does not go for this. He does not insert the discovered check. He simply advances the f-pawn, keeps these guys protected. From here, king e2, f6. Both players under a minute. I know it's not registering right now for Murzin. It's a bit sporadic. I can confirm, though, both players were under a minute at this stage, living off of that 10-second increment. Rook 2 to g6 from here, ready to round up the pawn. Now we have rook 3 to b2 check. King returns to f3. Rook b3. King goes back to e2. You see where we're going here. If Pragg wants a perpetual check, he can go for that. This one will end peacefully right around here, but he goes for more. He misses a big move here. And he plays this next move, this blunder, with 1 second on the clock. Rook 1 to b2. He has 11 seconds now. That was pulled off with 1 second. Nearly lost on time. This is a big blunder. What did he miss? The black king can continue his walk. King f1, setting up mate 1. And there's a square open on e1. After this follow-up check on b1, the king doesn't have to move. The bishop blocks. And now white must give up the exchange to stop mate. Moving the f-pawn does not stop mate. We still go into g1, sacrificing a rook first. Also moving the h-pawn does not help. We would have a mate in 3. Check, check, mate. The king paves the way for this. White must now sack the rook for the bishop, and this is now a winning position for black. From here, rook b1 check. Bishop eyeing up this post on g3, trying to glue this all together. Eyeing up c7. This is now won for Team Black, going hunting for the d pawn, securing the c pawn. White interfering with this capture. This is a strong piece. We just look to break it down. This one ends fast. In comes the h-pawn. King improves, h5 hits. White is out of the pin. Counterpunch against the rook, but guess what? This rook does not have to move. It has been worked out that you can take the bishop, the move in the game, and next simply advance the pawn. It's at this point that white resigns. If the game continued, rook goes here, black promotes, and next up, we win the rook with the skewer. All right, in this one, we only go as far as g2, and white resigns. So what a game. Don't try this at home. King walk here. It certainly, even though it wasn't objectively sound, it posed, we can say at a minimum, it posed serious problems for Praggnanandhaa. He was not able to figure it out in time. King repeating on these 2 squares for a couple of moves, getting all the way to that f1 square, assisted then with a bishop block here There would be no Perpetual for white. And yeah, that game really turned. The game really turned after Rook 1 to B2 was tried with 1 second on the clock, and it was a huge blunder in this case. Pragg ended up finishing the event with 8.5. He would have been in a wonderful position had he won this game, playing on one of the top 2 boards for a World Rapid Chess Championship title in that 13th and final round. But it was not meant to be in this one. What are your thoughts on this one? Feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.